1867, par un matin d'été, le 1er juillet, notre pays est né.
Les pères s'entendirent sur l'avenir de la nation, pour que tous et chacun puissent chanter ton nom.
D'une famille de 4 à 10, nous sommes passés. Sir John et MacDonald et ses associés.
Gardons la tête haute et ensemble chantons. Canada, nous sommes si fiers de ton nom.
Bonsoir, mesdames et messieurs, et bienvenue à cette deuxième session d'information qui se tient ici dans la cité de Clarence-Rockland par rapport à l'expansion de la route 1774. Le tout a lieu à la salle communautaire de l'Arena de Clarence Creek et ils sont sur le point de nous dévoiler que, de façon officielle, que la route préférée, c'est la route actuelle avec probablement certaines modifications. À suivre, nous allons voir ce qu'ils ont à nous proposer. Merci de demeurer avec nous et je vous dis bonne écoute.
Ce soir, ce qu'on va faire, en fait, il y a deux projets. Vous allez entendre parler à l'est de Trim puis à l'ouest de Trim. C'est parce qu'il y a un projet jusqu'à l'ouest de Trim qui est celui du LRT, du train léger d'Ottawa. Et puis, il y a le projet d'élargissement de la route qui, ce soir, vous intéresse plus particulièrement, qui, lui, va être décrit par Valérie. Alors, qu'est-ce qu'on fait ce soir? On parle, d'abord, on a reçu des commentaires en février. Ça va être un bon moment pour vous souligner les commentaires les plus importants et puis aussi vous dire ce qu'on va faire avec. On va décrire ce qu'on appelle la conception fonctionnelle des tracés. La conception fonctionnelle, c'est un peu à haut niveau. Et après ça, il y a un design plus détaillé qui va venir plus loin dans le temps. Et puis aussi parler des répercussions et des mesures d'atténuation qui vont être présentées par Valérie et David. Alors ça, on va faire ça autant pour l'élargissement de la 174 que pour l'implantation du train léger entre Ottawa et le chemin Trim. Alors, simplement pour vous rappeler, le territoire d'études, il va de ce qu'on appelle le split à Ottawa, qui est essentiellement l'intersection entre la 417 et la 174, et jusqu'à la limite est de Rockland, au chemin Landry, ou rue Landry, excusez-moi. Ce que vous voyez sur la carte, c'est quand même un corridor qui est assez large, parce que lors de la première rencontre, vous aviez suggéré d'examiner d'autres corridors. Puis ces corridors-là, c'était le long de Ennis et entre les deux. Et ces corridors ont été examinés effectivement dans la deuxième étape, disons, de consultation. Donc ça, c'est le territoire qui comprend les deux études. Alors en février, c'est ça, on a regardé l'intégration du processus d'évaluation environnementale municipale qui, lui, a été associé au processus d'évaluation de projets de transport en commun. C'est comme ça que la Ville d'Ottawa s'est associée avec les comtés unis de Prescott-Russell pour faire un projet qui, dans le fond, est linéaire. Il part de la Ville d'Ottawa avec un projet de train léger et il s'étend jusqu'à Rockland avec un projet d'élargissement de la route 174 et de la route 17. Alors ça, c'était un premier exercice. La dernière fois, en février, nous vous avons présenté les différents corridors qui étaient à l'étude et aussi l'évaluation environnementale qui avait été faite par l'équipe de travail à ce moment-là. Alors ça, c'est ce qui avait été fait. On vous avait aussi parlé des répercussions possibles et aussi un début des mesures de mitigation pour régler les problèmes que vous nous avez soulignés. Alors là, ce soir, vous allez avoir vraiment la description des deux projets puis des deux tracés plus en détail, des tracés qui ont été retenus à ce stade-ci. Si la première fois, dans la deuxième réunion publique qu'on a eue, on vous a montré les 3 ou 4 corridors qui étaient à l'étude, l'exercice avait été fait, il y avait un corridor privilégié. À ce stade-ci, on a utilisé les commentaires que vous nous avez remis et on les a utilisés pour raffiner les concepts privilégiés, autant du corridor pour le train léger que pour le corridor de l'élargissement. Alors, si on commence, alors ce soir, parce qu'on est dans cette région aussi, on va commencer par décrire l'élargissement de la route 174 et 17, des routes 74-17, et dans le détail. Mais avant ça, on aimerait pouvoir vous parler un peu des commentaires que vous avez faits. Alors, dans les grands commentaires qui sont ressortis, le premier, c'était les citoyens qui craignent des conséquences sur les propriétés. C'est sûr que quand vous regardez les tracés qui sont suggérés, il y a des endroits où vous pouvez voir que ça chevauche sur des terrains privés, sur des lieux que vous connaissez bien, peut-être même votre propriété privée à vous. Et à ce moment-là, évidemment, ça amène des craintes d'expropriation ou en tout cas de réduction de votre propriété privée. Alors ça, c'est une crainte qui a été très bien formulée la dernière fois et qui est adressée en regardant de façon particulière la réduction des terrains et les conséquences lorsque c'est possible. Alors, ce que vous avez ce soir comme présentation, vous allez voir exactement où est-ce que ça encroche sur les terrains privés et vous pourrez les discuter plus précisément avec les personnes présentes. Une autre crainte des citoyens, c'était lié à la congestion sur le corridor, congestion aux circulations, puis aussi les vitesses élevées. Étant donné qu'on passe d'une voie à 2 routes à une voie à 4 routes, alors c'est évident qu'il peut y avoir des craintes tout à fait justifiées de plus grande vitesse dans le corridor. Alors pour adresser ce genre de problème, les membres de l'équipe ont développé ce qu'on appelle des mesures d'atténuation de vitesse ou des mesures de traffic calming que vous connaissez peut-être et qui ont été intégrées au design comme tel. Une troisième crainte, c'était lié à l'accès aux berges et puis aussi aux traverses piétonnes. On parle maintenant d'une voie, d'un chemin à 4 voies. Donc, évidemment, pour les piétons, c'est plus difficile, c'est plus long à traverser. Alors, il y avait des préoccupations à ce niveau-là. Et là, de la même façon, il y a des traverses piétonnes qui ont été implantées à différents endroits avec de la signalisation, avec des façons de déclencher les lumières, les feux pour les piétons. Alors ça, c'est ce qui a aussi été intégré dans la conception des projets. Une autre crainte qui est ressortie, qui était assez importante, c'était celle des conséquences sur la rivière des Outaouais. C'est bien évident que le corridor longe la rivière des Outaouais. On peut penser aux effets environnementaux en particulier que ça peut avoir sur la rivière. Ce que vous allez constater en regardant les cartes, c'est que pour ce qui est de l'élargissement de la route, la majorité de l'élargissement se fait plutôt au sud, c'est-à-dire le plus loin possible de la rivière, mais il y a aussi eu des mesures pour limiter les déversements de remblais. Donc, il n'y a pas de remblais en particulier qui ont été ajoutés et toutes les mesures de protection environnementale, évidemment, sont au plus haut de l'intérêt de l'équipe de travail. Enfin, il y a aussi des craintes liées au bruit, parce que c'est évident, d'ailleurs on l'entendait en parlant, en regardant les cartes avec les citoyens, ils nous disaient il va y avoir plus de bruit, 4 voies, et ainsi de suite. Et de toute évidence, il y a des murs anti-bruit qui vont être implantés lorsque c'est possible, ou d'autres mesures, ça peut être des talus, ça peut être toutes sortes de façons de réduire les impacts en particulier qui sont liés au bruit. Alors c'est évident que ces projets-là, ils proviennent d'une planification à très long terme dans la région qui montre qu'il y a effectivement un développement. C'est une belle région où les gens aiment habiter et ils travaillent souvent dans la région d'Ottawa, mais il y a un développement qui est assez intense au sud d'Ottawa, définitivement, jusqu'à Rockland. Donc, dans l'avenir, des niveaux de circulation, des volumes de circulation qui vont augmenter et qui justifient les projets qui vous sont présentés ici. Et puis, peut-être une dernière crainte, there was the last one, une dernière crainte qui est que le calendrier d'élargissement des routes s'étire jusqu'en 2031. Alors, effectivement, alors que le train léger, lui, est prévu d'aller jusqu'à... il y a 23 pour la première phase, mais après ça, à Trim Road later. Okay? Alors que l'élargissement de la route, lui, est prévu au-delà de 2031. Alors, ça fait quand même dans un temps assez loin. Alors, s'il y a des gens qui, eux, sont contents que ça se passe plus tard, Il y en a d'autres qui font le voyage régulièrement vers Ottawa, probablement, qui sont heureux, qui aimeraient que ça se fasse le plus tôt possible. Alors ça, c'est dans ce sens-là où on a eu ce commentaire. Mais il y a aussi eu l'inverse. Alors, ce que je vais vous présenter maintenant, c'est simplement la forme des exemples pour vous aider à comprendre ce que Mme McGurr va vous présenter en passant à travers le tracé qui est proposé. C'est d'abord, si on fait une coupe transversale dans le milieu rural, on voit un système à 4 voies avec quelques caractéristiques importantes. D'abord, tout le long du tracé, il est prévu d'avoir une médiane centrale. Alors, ça veut dire quoi? Ça peut être autant ce qu'on appelle un New Jersey, qui est ce que vous voyez, une barrière, là, souvent, qui n'est pas toujours esthétique, mais il y a beaucoup de nouvelles formes de New Jersey qui sont beaucoup plus esthétiques, plus intéressantes. Mais à ce stade-ci de l'étude et de la conception, il n'y a pas eu de design particulier là, de ce que les médianes allaient avoir l'air. Alors, ça peut être des petits murets, ça peut être même en certains endroits de la végétation, mais définitivement une séparation entre les 4 voies du tracé. Il va y avoir des ouvertures tout le long. Vous êtes les premiers à regarder par où vous allez pouvoir passer pour rentrer sur vos propriétés, faire des virages à gauche en particulier. Ça, c'est sûr que l'équipe a essayé. Dans certains cas, vous allez voir une description là, de routes secondaires ou de routes de service qui permettent une seule entrée plutôt que d'avoir plusieurs entrées directement sur le boulevard ou la rue principale. Ça, c'est une façon. D'autres façons, c'est de faire des intersections qui autoriseront les virages en U. Alors, il y a des endroits où les virages en U sont interdits, mais le concept, surtout dans les milieux plus urbanisés où il y a des entrées charretières, serait fait de façon à autoriser, à permettre les virages en U et aussi à les faciliter avec des aménagements prévus à cet effet-là. Vous voyez sur le dessin que les accotements sont asphaltés. On voit 2 cyclistes sur les accotements. Ça, c'est une approche un petit peu route verte, si vous connaissez au Québec, ou sur les routes nationales, les routes provinciales. Les bas-côtés sont asphaltés de façon à permettre suffisamment une largeur suffisante d'au moins 1,5 mètre pour permettre des vélos, la circulation des vélos unidirectionnels, dans chaque sens. Alors ça, ce serait une des possibilités, mais dans certains cas, la possibilité pourrait être d'avoir des pistes cyclables qui sont à l'extérieur du réseau routier, un petit peu plus loin de la route. Je pense que c'est tout ce qu'il y a à dire sur ça. Alors ça, c'était une coupe en milieu rural. Une autre coupe, un autre exemple en milieu plus urbain. I just have the English. En milieu plus urbain. Alors ça, c'est des exemples de coupes qui pourraient être vis-à-vis Cumberland, peut-être pas à cette échelle-là, mais en tout cas des aménagements un petit peu plus urbains pour montrer à la circulation qu'il faut ralentir en rentrant dans ces milieux plus urbanisés ou définitivement le long de la berge à Rockland. Alors là, ce que ça montre, c'est sûr que ce qu'on veut, c'est indiquer aux conducteurs que maintenant on n'est plus dans le milieu rural, qu'il faut réduire les vitesses. Et pour faire ça, on utilise des choses comme une végétation beaucoup plus urbaine que celle qu'on retrouve dans le milieu rural. On retrouve des trottoirs, des pistes cyclables. Ici, on montre des pistes cyclables de chaque côté de la rue, mais ça ne veut pas dire qu'elles seraient là nécessairement. Ça peut être juste d'un côté puis un trottoir d'un autre côté. Souvent, c'est plutôt ce qui est fait comme exemple. On voit des drapeaux, donc une décoration quelconque. On ne voit pas les bancs et les poubelles, mais il devrait y en avoir. On voit ici une intersection aussi avec une traverse qui serait signalisée. Donc, vous pouvez appuyer puis faire déclencher une traverse piétonne ou un signal piéton. Là, vous voyez sur l'exemple aussi un pavé spécial qui permettrait de mieux indiquer la présence d'une traverse pour les piétons. Toute la signalisation aussi irait avec ça. Alors ça, c'est le genre, c'est simplement des illustrations à ce stade-ci. Ce ne sont pas des choses qui sont prévues dans le détail. Ça viendra beaucoup plus tard quand les plans détaillés seront faits. Alors, il y a deux entrées qui peut-être vous préoccupent moins, à moins que vous soyez de Cumberland. Il y a deux entrées, deux intersections importantes qui peuvent faire l'objet soit d'une intersection avec des signaux lumineux, avec des feux de circulation, soit avec l'approche d'un carrefour giratoire. Alors, ces deux aspects-là, ces deux formes d'intersection-là ont été amenés, ont été étudiés, et ce soir, même si on vous présente des plans qui sont des plans proposés, recommandés, les intersections n'ont pas été finalisées, sont encore à être définies, et ça, c'est un des aspects sur lesquels on aimerait avoir vos commentaires dans les documents qui vous ont été remis, à savoir si vous préférez le giratoire par rapport à une intersection plus conventionnelle de feu de circulation. Alors, pour vous donner un petit peu d'aide pour faire votre choix, on a un tableau ici qui nous montre qu'un carrefour giratoire, normalement, il peut gérer 1700, 1800 maximum, là, un gros maximum, 1900 véhicules sur une route normale. Mais les projections de circulation qui ont été faites pour la région, pour la route 1774, montrent plutôt des volumes de 2100 véhicules, peut-être un peu plus. Ça, ce que ça veut dire, c'est qu'un carrefour giratoire à deux voies ne serait pas vraiment approprié pour ces intersections-là. Ça nécessiterait un carrefour giratoire à trois voies. Mais ça veut dire, je vous le montrerai un dessin qui va venir après, ça veut dire qu'il y aurait des deux voies qui arriveraient, qui se deviendraient des trois voies pour passer autour du carrefour giratoire et qui reviendraient à deux voies plus tard sur le chemin. Alors, on a fait un tableau avantage compromis ou avantage-désavantage des deux options. Pour ce qui est du carrefour giratoire, évidemment, ça a l'avantage de faire une gestion de l'accès qui est intéressante. C'est aussi possible de les faire de façon à ce que les manœuvres autour du carrefour soient simplifiées, soient faciles et sécuritaires. Et puis, ça permet aussi une certaine gestion de la vitesse. En fait, les carrefours giratoires, sous différentes formes, sont souvent utilisés comme des instruments de traffic calming. Donc, ça peut être intéressant de les avoir. Au point de vue sécuritaire aussi, ils ont des avantages intéressants. Pour les aspects plutôt négatifs, c'est que vous allez voir que les carrefours giratoires nécessitent beaucoup de terrain. S'ils sont bien faits, ils nécessitent énormément de terrain. Et on va pouvoir voir la différence sur le prochain dessin. Et puis, ils marchent bien quand les volumes de circulation sont équilibrés, c'est-à-dire qu'ils arrivent dans tous les sens. Si on voit un carrefour avec 4 branches, il faudrait qu'il y ait des volumes de circulation semblables, ce qui ne serait pas du tout le cas à Cumberland, où évidemment la 174 aurait tous les volumes et les entrées seraient, eux, des volumes beaucoup moins intéressants. C'est beaucoup plus difficile étant donné que la priorité est pour les véhicules qui sont dans le carrefour. Quand il n'y a pas beaucoup de véhicules sur une des branches, il y a beaucoup de difficultés à s'insérer et ça peut être plus dangereux. C'est aussi moins pratique pour les piétons et les cyclistes parce que ça devient des largeurs qui sont quand même assez importantes. On va le voir sur la photo. Donc, il faut pouvoir gérer les traverses piétonnes avec beaucoup plus d'instruments, avec beaucoup plus de mesures. Et puis, aussi, vous allez voir, c'est assez démesuré dans un contexte villageois. Alors, ça peut être implanté dans un milieu urbain assez dense, quand il y a la place, etc. C'est peut-être une bonne solution. C'est une approche qui est souvent intéressante, mais dans un contexte villageois comme celui de Cumberland, c'est pas aussi intéressant. Pour ce qui est des feux de circulation, il y a des bonnes performances opérationnelles. Il y a besoin de beaucoup moins de terrain. Et puis aussi, c'est plus pratique pour traverser. Il y a moins d'espace à franchir pour traverser la rue. Par contre, ça requiert des mesures d'atténuation de la vitesse parce qu'il n'y a pas cet effet automatique des carrefours giratoires où les automobilistes sont obligés de ralentir. Alors là, on a deux dessins qui vont vous montrer un petit peu, qui vont illustrer ces aspects-là. Alors, ce que vous avez en fait, il y a deux dessins là, sur la même intersection à Cameron. Vous avez un carrefour giratoire. Là, vous voyez déjà comment le carrefour prend beaucoup plus de place. Donc, alors, essayez de faire une ligne ici entre les deux dessins. Voilà l'intersection typique. Voilà le carrefour giratoire typique. C'est exactement le même territoire qui est couvert par les deux plans. Dans le carrefour giratoire, vous avez vos pistes cyclables qui sont là, mais effectivement, vous voyez que déjà, La rue ici a dû être déplacée pour être redéplacée et relocalisée un petit peu plus haut. Regardez le terrain que ce carrefour-là, qui est sous forme de concept, utilise. En fait, il accroche ici le gaz bar, là, et il empiète aussi sur tous les terrains adjacents. Tandis que dans la situation d'un carrefour avec une signalisation normale, plus traditionnelle de feu de circulation, évidemment, vous pouvez avoir vos passages piétons qui sont beaucoup moins larges à traverser et aussi pas d'empiètement sur les terrains adjacents. Alors, dans ce cas-ci, c'est encore à voir. On aimerait votre opinion sur ces options-là, mais définitivement, je pense qu'on voit là que l'option de feu de circulation là, est moins, disons, à moins d'impact. Si on regarde l'autre, c'est à Barnett, l'intersection avec Barnett. Là, ce serait un carrefour giratoire à 3 branches. Ça existe, mais vous voyez ici qu'on est obligé, là, on arrive à 2 voies, mais là, on est obligé de séparer les entrées. Et encore là, c'est évident que comme le carrefour giratoire prend beaucoup plus d'espace par rapport à l'espace qui est utilisé par des feux de circulation. Alors ça, c'est... si vous n'êtes pas de Cumberland, peut-être ces 2 intersections qui sont... Mais si vous passez à travers, ça vous implique de toute façon. Là, à partir de maintenant, ce qui va se passer, c'est que Valérie va reprendre le micro pour vous décrire plus en détail les plans qui sont autour de la salle et pouvoir vous mentionner tous les aspects qui ont été améliorés par rapport à vos commentaires et à vos craintes qu'on a mentionnées tout à l'heure.
There is, to the east of Trim Road, a new development called Cardinal Creek Village, and the alignment of the 174 is to change so that in this area you can see that we are going south of, oh, do you have the, oh, you, okay. We're going south of the existing road, and the existing road will become a pedestrian and cyclist area, providing the public with access to the riverfront, which does not exist today because the road is right there. The other advantage to relocating the road, especially through an area such as Cardinal Creek, is it provides us an opportunity to build a new crossing of the creek that, and we will consider the passage of wildlife as well as potentially providing for a pedestrian and cyclist trail underneath. That has to be determined. And then there is an intersection shown here, which is the access to this new area of Cardinal Creek Village. So we go right through that area, and you can see today some work ongoing in the area. And just as we get to the old quarry area of the and the escarpment, that's where our road alignment is coming back to the existing road alignment. We are, however, continuing to widen mostly to the south to avoid significant impacts on the houses and the river. So we will be excavating some of the lower portion of the escarpment in this area. There are a few driveways in the area which will be right in, right out. There will be a median in the middle of this road, as Patrick showed you. In this area, we have the start of a service road, and we'll go on to the next sheet to see the rest of it. And this service road is consolidating a whole lot of driveways, and this will help reduce conflicts between vehicles entering and exiting the road and the traffic on the road itself. So as we go along here, this is this area, and I'm sure many of you have seen it, where there is a number of people with accesses all along the road. And so we're proposing to put in a new signal and median break to allow these people to enter and exit the road safely. We're also extending this service road all the way over to this property in the east. You also see on this portion of the slide 3 orange lines. The center one is the center of the hydro transmission lines that you see along the side of the road. And so we leave room for the hydro lines. There are a few more houses that are going to have right-in, right-out driveways. And as well, there is a substation, a power substation on the south side of the road near the golf course. This is the golf course near Quigley Hill. The dark line on this drawing shows the proposed property line, and the other black lines show the existing property lines. So here's the intersection of Quigley Hill Road. It will have a signal helping pedestrians and cyclists and vehicles making a turn to cross the road. There aren't that many people making a turn, but some of those people who have right-in, right-out driveways would have to make a U-turn at this location to get home after coming home from Ottawa. So I guess they're on that other line. There's also a boat launch at the bottom of Quigley Hill Road, and so we have shown a new access road to get folks who want to get in their boat and go down the river. They can still get there from here. As we approach Cumberland Village, we have the location where the power transmission lines cross from Quebec to Ontario. And then at that point, we're going to start to transition to the village environment. And to do this, we've shown a horizontal deflection. Patrick was talking about traffic calming, and this is one of the techniques that we use to try to bring some attention to the drivers that they are changing into another area. We change the roadside, we change the median, and we change the alignment. So that's what we're doing. That's right in the west end. And then I'll open another drawing. And enlarge it. So here we have, and those blue lines that you saw on our drawings are the multi-use pathways. And so in this area, just coming up to Cameron, there we have what you saw in the small inset before, the traffic signal at Cameron. Then we go through the rest of the village. We have shown a cul-de-sac on West Street because it is so close to the intersection. However, other driveways do remain with a right-in, right-out on the north side. On the south side, we are proposing to close both Faubert and Peter Harkness Lane. This, I think, as Patrick explained to you, with my poor understanding, this is our technically preferred alternative. We are also showing you the roundabout alternative for your comment so that we can understand what you think about it as well. There is the Barnett extension and the new signal that will be there. And then we get off to go. I just want to show you the same thing, but with the roundabouts. And then we'll get to the rest of the area. This is really just so that you can get a feel more for not just the insets of the pictures of those roundabouts, but the full area. You can see here before Cameron how we widen from 2 lanes to 3 lanes, and as we come away, depart the roundabout, how we narrow from 2 lanes, or from 3 lanes down to 2 lanes. So this goes through the village, similar to what you saw before. And we come out to near to the Cumberland Heritage Museum, which we will look at now. At the Cumberland Museum, there is a desire to have a connection across the road for pedestrians and cyclists, so we've shown a wider median to provide that additional protection. We've also shown a multi-use pathway from this location easterly to serve the people who live on the north side of the road so that they could walk or cycle into the village of Cumberland safely. And we have also shown a new service road connecting East Shore Road and Morin over to Kinsella intersection, which again would have an intersection. These traffic lights would be designed to be actuated and turn from green to red only when a vehicle is on the side street, so that it wouldn't cause any unnecessary delay to the main road. I think you've all experienced that here in Rockland. So all the way along, there is property required on both sides of the road. And so we go quickly along, we go over Beckett's Creek, and we are showing some retaining structure or perhaps a bridge in that area to protect the valley. And when we are replacing, if we do replace that structure, that would be another opportunity to put in a elevated culvert to allow the critters to cross under the road. So we go along. Oh, I guess I should let you see. This is Old Montreal Road. And what we've done here, again, there's a signal. And on the north side, we have extended McTier Road to the McSkimmings Outdoor Center and put in a cul-de-sac. This would make it safer for buses of school children to get in and out of the education center, as they can come over and exit at Canaan Road at a signal. So we'll go on to the next drawing. So here we are in Prescott and Russell, and we have the end of the McTier Road. And we go into the area where we have a number of farms where the houses are on the north side of the road and the farmland is on the south side. So what we have proposed is another intersection and break in the median so that the farmers can cross to the existing farm road safely. And it also provides an opportunity for people to turn around and make U-turns should they need to do that. So we continue on through to the west side of Rockland, and there is an existing service road that we are relocating a bit. We're adjusting that service road. We have also realigned the main County Road 17 where we could, to avoid any filling into the Ottawa River. It will require some retaining walls in some areas. And there will also be a need for a retaining wall between County Road 17 and the service road in this area. So we get to Carmen Bergeron, where the existing signal will be kept, although the road is widened. And then we're going to go down to the next stretch. It takes a while to go through 20 kilometers of road. And again, we are widening away from the river generally because we don't want to be filling into the Ottawa River. The blue is a multi-use pathway again along the road to provide a safer place for pedestrians and cyclists to travel. Then we come over to Chamberlain where we have a signal. There's an existing signal, and as you know, it's an existing 4-lane road, but there will be upgrades in this area, including the multi-use pathways and turn lanes where they don't exist now. We have another existing signal at Food Basics and at Edwards. Just east of Edwards is where we're going again from an urban cross-section back to a rural cross-section. And we get more into the rural area. And we go on to our fifth and last file. Here we are along near Pigeon, where we have the old railway embankment along the south side and the provincially significant wetland. We have put in some additional retaining structure along the wetland to avoid filling into it. And then some where we can. The limits of the retaining wall would be investigated more in detailed design when we have more precise mapping and delineation of the wetlands. So we continue along County Road 17 and we get to where the Caron extension is being constructed today and the relocation of Industrial. And the intersection to the arena, where there would be an opening as well for vehicles to make turns. Then a little further along County Road 17 is a proposed development. The exact location and format of this intersection is to be determined. And the purpose for that intersection is also to connect down to Laurier Street so that this east intersection of Laurier can be closed. The north side of Laurier Street, on the other side of County Road 17, is the start of provincially significant wetland, which also continues over the Clarence Creek area. So we show again that we would need some retaining walls to minimize impact on the wetland. This area is also part of future development lands, and the location of Pego Road intersection may vary depending on where it finally is decided to place it. Then we come over and we're right at Laundry Road. We have shown a roundabout in this location. It's a place where it works well. Whether the county could decide in the future whether this is the most appropriate traffic control, but at this time, because it takes a little more land, we'd like to protect for that future decision to be made. So that is the end of the tour on County Road 17. And I guess we could go back to the presentation to David.
So now I'm going to talk a little bit about the section west of Trim, which is the widening of 174 and the LRT project. West of Trim, there were a number of comments we received. Almost everybody wants the LRT to come out to Trim Road immediately, as soon as possible. We are looking to see if there's a way to stretch the budget to get there, and we are also planning to figure out how much it costs so we can ask the federal and provincial government for more money to make sure that it happens earlier. There was a lot of people expressing a desire to see expanded park and ride. We are looking to see whether there are opportunities both at Place d'Orleans and at Trim to expand the number of park and ride spots, and I'll get into that in more detail as we get through here. There was concern about some noise and vibration impacts, primarily related to the highway, although some concern about the train. We've done some preliminary analysis, and there are a few sections where vibration control underneath the tracks and some noise barriers may be needed. There's concern about pedestrian and cycling accessibility to the stations, as well as general accessibility for people with physical disabilities. We are making sure that these stations are fully accessible for everyone in the community, and we are looking at improving the pedestrian and cycling networks into the stations so that people can walk and cycle in as opposed to having to drive or take a bus. There was concern about personal safety at the stations, and we have done an audit of our designs to make sure that not only do they look safe for people who are using them, but they are actually safe, that we're not creating areas where we could have problems with people gathering or with activities that we don't want to see at transit stations. And there was also concern about the widening or the timing of when the highway is going to be widened. Currently it is not in the city's affordable network, and it's beyond 2031. As the transit planner, I would like to see the highway not widened, but as someone who needs to drive in the area, I think it's important that we look at balancing both the roads and the transit, and so we'll see what can be done to advance that. We saw these cross sections at the last presentation. We can see here where we have a station, we'll have a wide platform in the middle. There'll be stairs and elevators in the center to take people up to the pedestrian bridge or the road bridge to get off to the side of the highway. Between the LRT and the highway, we'll have a Jersey barrier and fence so that we keep the cars and the buses separate. They don't like to play together very well. And then in between the stations, we need a much narrower section. We just need enough for the 2 trains to run. We would have the power poles down the center for the electrical power for the train. And then on either side of the LRT, again, we would have Jersey barriers and fences to keep things separated. So now I'm going to jump out of the presentation and look at the plan. So on this plan, we can see the gray of the highway, and we can see the dark blue, which is the widening of the highway for the ultimate 6 lanes and changes to the ramps. And the LRT is shown in red, and the stations are shown in green. So this is starting at Blair Station, which is the terminus of the Stage 1, which is starting under construction. And I'm sure many of you have heard that as of June 28th, the transitway between Blair and Herdman will be closed for that construction to happen, and the bus routes will be put back out on the highway. The highway construction that's happening west of the split is to add an additional traffic lane. That's going to open in the middle of June, and that lane will be for buses only while the LRT is being built. And then when the LRT opens in 2018, all of the buses from the east will stop at Blair, and the LRT will be open, and the 4th lane on the highway will be open for general traffic use. In this area, we're also planning for the Cumberland Transitway, which is in the south part of Orleans. It comes east-west through Orleans and then up Blair, and this is showing where it will rise up to fly over the highway and then come down and use the existing bus access underneath Blair to get into the bus loop at Blair Station, which will be just north of the LRT station. The LRT will drop down and go underneath Blair and underneath the ramps. As we get a little further east, eventually we will need to close the bus bridge from the east, and at that point the buses will go out onto the highway for a short period of time. We're planning for a future station here just south of Gloucester High School near the Jasmine Park area, but it's not warranted in the short term, but we'll plan for it in the long term. We stay along the north edge of the highway until we get to Montreal Road. At Montreal Road, the station will be in the northwest quadrant. We need to modify the highway ramps. We thought we could change the ramp into this configuration, but it turns out we need to maintain the existing loop. So the LRT will be a little bit higher to get over that ramp road. With the station here, the station house will be at the east end, and you will get off the train along the platform and then drop down to the west side of Montreal Road, where we'll have an improved sidewalk to get up into the community. It was important to put this station on the north side of the highway because the south side is all of the Greens Creek area and the Greenbelt, and all the development is on the north side of the highway. As we go a little bit further east, the LRT will stay high, and then just before we get to Greens Creek, it will jump over from the north side of the highway into the middle of the highway, and then there'll be another structure that jumps over the culverts for Greens Creek. So there are 4 culverts that go underneath here today. So we'll have structure on either side and span over top of that, and then the LRT will descend down to the elevation of the highway. And around the time that we get just to where the Georges-Étienne Cartier Parkway spans over the highway, we'll be back at grade and we'll go underneath that bridge. From here on out, the LRT is at the same elevation as the freeway. You can also see here now the existing highway is shown in light blue and the expansion in dark blue, but the LRT is still shown in red. So as we go across the Greenbelt, there is room for both the LRT and the widened highway without having to take land from NCC. It all fits within land that the city already owns. So that makes it easier when we get funding and we don't need to go and get that property from the National Capital Commission. When we get across the Greenbelt, the first station on the east side is at Jeanne d'Arc. The station is shown here primarily to the west of Jeanne d'Arc. It could actually float and be centered or move a little bit further east. And this is one of the options that we're going to show. When it is, if we have, and so we have the street above where we will have the pedestrians, the cyclists, and the buses dropping people off. We'll have a station house on one side of the street and on the other side of the street, so you don't need to cross the street to get in and out of the station. On this side, because we have access to the end of the platform, we can have the 2 elevators and the stairs next to each other, because we can use the full 8-meter width of the platform to come down and get onto the platform. On the other side of the street, because we're in the middle of the platform, we have to be able to circulate around those down at platform level. So they'll be in order with one elevator and then another elevator and then the stairs. So the station house will be long and skinny. And we'll see some more of that in a few minutes. The other reason this station may float is if you think about it, if every station was lined up so that everybody got on at the east end of the platform, the east end of the train would fill up very quickly and nobody would ride at the west end of the train. So what we want to do is look at the whole line and look at where are the busy stations where people get on and where do they get off, and try and balance that so that we load the trains and load the platforms evenly. So we have the advantage here of being able to shift these platforms a little bit east or west to try and balance that loading. Coming a little bit further east, the next station is at Orleans Boulevard. There are no road ramps to work with, but we do need to get bus service and pedestrians and cyclists into the station. There are accesses in the southeast and southwest today, and we will be planning and protecting for the city to either purchase a house or purchase an easement to bring a pathway out to the road to connect the northwest and northeast community to allow them better access to the station. The next station to the east at Place d'Orleans right now is the terminus of the Stage 2 line under the affordable plan. If we can find more money or stretch the dollars, it may go further, but for now this is the plan, is to go to Place d'Orleans by 2023. The station is shown a little bit further west than Champlain Street, and it's been done to line up with the pedestrian bridge that connects the park and ride lot on the north to the bus loop and the shopping mall on the south side of the highway. We will be looking to see if there's opportunities to make this park and ride bigger, and we'll also be talking with the developer of the land further north to either have more surface parking or talk about jointly developing a parking structure where we would have a second level of parking here to increase the number of spots for people to be able to access the train. The bus loop will stay, and we're going to look to see whether all of those people transferring between the buses and the train can do it with this one pedestrian bridge, or whether we need to add a second bridge to handle the volume of passengers. We're also placing the platform a little further west than Champlain because there isn't room for both the LRT and the highway widening under that bridge. So if the LRT comes first, we get to claim the space, and then when they widen the highway, they'll have to rebuild the bridge. So it's a relatively new bridge, and we don't want to replace it till we have to. There's also a hydro corridor along the south side, and the widening of the highway will actually encroach on the maintenance zone around the hydro wires that Hydro 1 wants. So between the west end of Place d'Orleans and the east end, we may need to move the hydro wires a little bit further south in order to allow Hydro 1 to be able to maintain them, and we're working on that right now. The next station is at the Orleans Town Center. So this is the Schenkman Center, so it's just north of that. It would be in the middle of the highway with a pedestrian bridge to connect to both the development on the south side and into the local community to the north. A little bit further east, the Transportation Master Plan called for a station at 10th Line Road. We've had a look in the area, and this area to the north has now been rezoned for development, and the area on the south is also being actively pursued by developers. So we're looking at shifting that station about 300 meters to the east so that a pedestrian bridge here will serve the two development parcels. This will be more successful as a station because today there are no buses on 10th Line Road, and with the way this interchange is configured, it's very difficult to get out here on foot or by bicycle. A little bit further east, the Transportation Master Plan called for a station at Taylor Creek Business Park. When we looked at the transportation model, we got a grand total of 27 people wanting to use this station in the morning. It's cheaper to buy each of them a car than it is to build a station for them. So we're going to not build that station now, but we will protect for it should this business park redevelop and the block east of Cité or west of Cité Collégiale redevelop. But it's not warranted in the short term, particularly since the new 10th line station will be very close, and the Trim Road station will also be very close. At Trim Road, right now it's a traffic signal. It can't be when the LRT is in the middle of the road, so we will be looking at putting in an interchange with Trim Road going up and over the top. We've tried to move the ramps away from the intersection so that the old works yard and the park and ride lot and the Cité Collégiale site all have good access and connection to the LRT platform and make it a transit-oriented development area. If we were to use a more typical interchange, we would have loops in the corners here which take up a lot of the development land and also make it not very pedestrian friendly to get to the station. So we've opted to move away from that. We'll keep the traffic circle at the north and the south, but we will move the ramps out of the way to the degree that we can. So that's the basic plan. Let's jump back into the presentation now and we can finish up the last part of it. So this is a center platform station in Calgary. You can see here we have the station in the middle of the highway with 3 lanes on either side. There's an open pedestrian bridge that connects in. For some reason, people in Calgary like being outside when it's minus 40. I know we don't here. So here the bridge would be closed in like it is today at Blair. They have bicycle parking and kiss and ride and bus loop very close by. So you have a good sight line to see the bridge before you get there. When you're on the bridge, you can see the station, and when you're in the station, you can see down to the platform. So you can always look ahead to your next decision point and decide whether that group of teenagers is somebody that you know from your grandson's soccer team or whether they're people you don't want to talk to. As you get closer to the station where you come out of the entrance, again, you'd be able to see all the way across the bridge. As you're approaching, you have a very good view of the bridge coming along. And then in the station, there's a lot of glass to be able to stay at the upper level to watch a train approaching, or go downstairs and stay in the enclosed area and wait for your train to arrive. There will be heating in the station. There will be elevators in the station. There'll be a waiting area both upstairs and downstairs. So it'll be very convenient for people using the station. This is an example at Searville. So this is more typical of what's going to be built here in Ottawa. We can see in front of the station there's a bit of a plaza entry area. And in the plaza there's bicycle parking. Then there's access into the station where the elevators are. It's a glass and steel structure, a lot of concrete as well. And actually the underside of the roof is going to be done with ash wood that's been harvested from the ash trees that have died from the emerald ash borer. So we're harvesting the wood and getting it for almost free. But the other thing is that the wood warms up the space and makes it feel more comfortable for people. So the next steps in both projects then are to take the feedback that we received here tonight. On Tuesday night we were in Cumberland, and on Monday night we were in Orleans, and I'm starting to get a little tired. So we'll bundle all that up together. We're working on finalizing the designs and the mitigation measures. The portion west of Trim with the LRT will be going forward this late spring, June, July, to committee. And the east of Trim portion will go in the fall. And then the formal environmental assessments will start through the fall with a public review of the documentation.
Yep. So do we have a cost estimate at this time? Who wants to answer the question? Yep.
So we know the city is planning for the light rail portion, so I can talk to that. The current budget that's allocated to the east is $500 million to get from Blair as far east as we can. We've just sort of finalized this plan, and we're working on the pricing for that now. We think we can likely get a little bit past Orleans in that budget. We're not quite sure whether we can get all the way to Trim. The way the city works is they have actually accelerated the money out to 2048 and then brought it all back. And we do our estimating in current dollars. And so they know the value of all that future money in today's dollars, and that's how we balance it out. So we have $500 million in 2013 dollars that will be spread out to 2023. And do you have on the road portion?
We are also working on now that we have more details on the structures and the retaining walls and other things like that we're now working on more detailed cost estimate for our functional design. So that will be available in the study documentation, but I don't have a number for you tonight.
At the back, was there a second? No, the lady at the very back, please. And then you'll be the third, okay? Avec tous ces feux de circulation, est-ce que ça va sauver du temps ou ça va ralentir? And so the answer is?
Yes, most of the traffic lights, because they will be actuated and will only come on and stop 174-17 traffic if there is traffic on the side streets. And many of those streets have very light volumes and not a lot of additional development planned. So there is no concern about the amount of red light along the 17174.
And of course, it's counterbalanced by the fact that there'll be more lanes. There'll be 4 lanes instead of 2. Okay? I said the third was, yes, please. En quelle année on va aller de Trim à Rockland environ?
Right now, it is post-2031 when the widening is expected, and it will depend on the availability of funding.
Will the 4 lanes still be adequate? Okay. So, on the question of timing, I'll answer because, of course, the city staff, but of course, part of the costing of this road is a matter of the provincial and federal governments being involved and participating financially. And were that to happen sooner, then the road might be able to be built sooner. But that's a political calculation that no one can really answer. How about the lane adequacy?
So in order to do the planning, the city undertook the transportation master plan. So what they do is they look at where does everybody live and work today and create this model that generates the volumes of traffic that are on the road. And then we calibrate that to make sure that we can predict with the model today's traffic on the highways. So the model is pretty good. It's within 2 or 3% of what we see on the roads today. So then the city has another group of people that they're looking at where will people live in the future and where will they work in the future. And they've gone out to 2031 and they're actually now looking beyond that, 2036, 2041, 2046. And so we have the projections of the population and employment out beyond 2031. When we put that into the model, what it's saying is that this road needs to handle, we need 1 extra lane of capacity in each direction to meet the volumes in 2031. So it's going to grow to somewhere around 2,100 vehicles in the peak hour. That's still less than can be handled by a 4-lane roadway. Because it's a fairly open roadway, we have very few driveways. We only have a few traffic lights. Most of them are actuated. We can generally, in that case, handle up to 1,200 vehicles per lane. So at 2031, we're projecting 2,100. That still gives us another 10 or 15% on top of that, which we believe carries us well out. And at that point, we also then need to look at, is it necessary to widen 174 further, or now that we have 4 lanes there and it's safer and it operates better, now maybe we need to make a better connection further south to offload that as Ottawa grows further south and more people want to travel further south. Today the model is showing everybody wants to go north to the river and then west into town. And that's true all the way in about as far as Bank Street. When you get to the other side of Bank Street, the behavior changes. Everyone wants to go north to the river and then east into town. So all the way across Ottawa, we see that people want to go north first and then into downtown. So that's why we're recommending the widening. It handles the traffic. It also deals with the safety issues and the flexibility. I know it can be really frustrating. You get out there with somebody who doesn't know where they're going and they want to go slower and you want to go faster. With 2 lanes in each direction, you'd have the ability to pass. You also have, if there's an accident, it can be pulled out of the way and at least get 1 lane through. So for all of these reasons, we're recommending the lane to the north, and we think that it is more than adequate to get us beyond the time period when it would be built.
Okay. Et moi, j'étais 4, 5, 6, c'était... OK, monsieur? Oui? OK. Alors, il dit que la plupart des gens ici sont intéressés à l'est de Trim, puis il veut savoir si ça va être en 2031. Yeah, I noticed it's on this signboard over here earlier when I was reading, but not with very much detail. It was just briefly mentioned the 3-lane option was considered. So can we get like a brief explanation of why the 4-lane is being proposed instead of the 3-lane?
This section of 174-17 is not appropriate for a 3-lane section. We did look at it in some detail, and we appreciate that Monsieur Goudbourg has done an incredible amount of work and consideration. However, this area with the number of driveways that enter onto it, with the side roads, and with the need for overhead signs, that many of you may be familiar with the reversible lane on the Champlain Bridge, and how every few 100 or 200 meters there is a gantry over the road that indicates either an X for do not be in this lane, or a green arrow that this is your lane to be in. And the fact is that those gantries, we need the signals, we need actually cameras to look at if there has been any incidents on the road and that the lights are functioning adequately. And in fact, the number of gantries and lights and continuing operation costs are quite substantial. We agree with Mr. Goudbourg that the thought, this is a very attractive thought, but as long as human beings are driving cars, and in this circumstances, I do not believe, and we have considered it, it is not a safe option. And so therefore we have said that this is not being carried forward. The 4 lanes with a median barrier is what is required.
Je m'aperçois, David, qu'il y a eu beaucoup de changements depuis la dernière présentation à Cumberland au mois de février. Tout d'abord, combien de lumières de circulation que nous anticipons installer sur cette voie-là, qui n'est certainement pas un scenic drive?
Oui.
Et puis avec les runabouts, là, les carrefours giratoires,
ouais.
Je peux dire que ça n'a quasiment pas de bon sens sur une grande route, une route provinciale, anciennement. C'est pas un chemin de village, de urbain là, que nous avons là. Parce que pour faire le tour d'un giratoire, c'est en bas à peu près 10 km. Ouais. Actuellement, j'ai regardé le plan, que ce soir, qu'il y a beaucoup de changements, mais je me demande comment c'est qu'on n'a pas regardé la possibilité d'une rampe qui sort du chemin Cameron, les gens qui traversent sur le traversier. Le matin, les traversiers qui arrivent là, c'est ça qui retient le trafic à Cumberland.
Okay.
On attend à partir de Kinsella jusqu'à la lumière de Cameron. Avant de traverser, c'est pour les gens qui s'en viennent de l'autre côté. La même chose de ce qu'on vient d'Ottawa à Saint-Laverdet. Cameron encore, ils n'ont jamais regardé de mettre une rampe qui rentre au village de Cumberland.
OK.
Et puis l'idéal dans le moment, quand vous dites 2031, lorsque vous dites 2031, on ne peut pas attendre. Quand je dis on ne peut pas attendre, il va falloir que tout le monde qui est ici dise au gouvernement, reprenez cette route-là que vous nous avez donnée en 98. On n'était pas obligé de la prendre, on l'a pris. J'ai dit bien, on n'était pas obligé de la prendre, on l'a pris. Maintenant, c'est à nous autres de jouer une certaine politique et dire, on doit retourner. Vous avez dit tout à l'heure, 2100 autos qui passent. You said a little while ago, there's about 1,900 cars that runabouts could take. And right now, the traffic count that we used to have at La Porte here was about 23,000 something a day. But now I know it could be reduced because a lot of people are taking Canaan to get down to the Morris Village or to go down to Clarence. They take Anderson and to eliminate being stuck in the with the traffic light at Walmart and also at the port. Really, that's work to be done, and I hope that the runabout won't be there because it's impossible on a highway to have a runabout.
Okay. So the first part of the question was also asking similarly about the impact of all the traffic lights being added. The second part of the question was also asking if at Cameron Street in Cumberland you'd consider essentially turning lanes, or he calls them a ramp, you know, instead of a full traffic circle, which he's not in favor of, and asking essentially, yeah, because of the ferry, what's being done to improve? Yeah. So, and then one of the part of his question as well was an appeal for people to lobby their provincial and government, in particular politicians, to have the province take this road back because it used to be a provincial highway. So there's a number of parts to that question. So who can answer, first of all, on the traffic lights? Then we'll go to the Cameron Street intersection.
So, you mean in addition to the previous question?
Yeah, I think it's kind of, yeah.
Okay, yes, the traffic lights all along this road have been evaluated for the level of service that would be provided, how good the traffic would be in the peak period, and they perform very well. And in specifically where we have added actuated signals to facilitate pedestrians and cyclists crossing the road, there are very low volumes on the cross street, so those signals should not be changed for the traffic on 174-17 very often, especially during the peak.
Okay.
And we will report on and look at southbound right turn lane from Cameron onto 174. I will report on that in our, at least in our documentation, if we have that comment. Thank you.
Et en fait, la question de l'intersection Cameron a été longuement débattue aussi parce qu'on a fait une réunion à Cumberland mardi soir. On a reçu beaucoup de commentaires de la part des gens qui habitent là. We also heard from people who would be directly affected that their house might have to be expropriated to improve the Cameron intersection. And a lot of people who'd lived in Cumberland Village, or their parents had lived there even since the days when it was first a railway, before it was a highway. So we've got a lot of good feedback on that it's going to be turned over for further analysis. Prochaine question, yes? So when is the study going to be finished? This study?
Yes.
Okay, so?
Fall of this year.
The fall of this year. And it goes to the city council, right?
Yes, right.
Yeah.
So it's 5 years, then it goes to the council. It's been 5 years, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, right?
No, it's 2012.
Well, we won't quibble for a year. It's been a few years. Okay,
Fine.
go ahead.
So then this is going to go to, right?
Well, you need to renew the environmental impact study?
Yes, we will need to go back and revisit some things, but if there's not substantial changes in the environment, it's a fairly simple process. So we would not have to go back and look at alternatives and reevaluate all the lanes. We just need to make sure that some of the local environment conditions are the same. The advantage, though, of having the approval now is that where we do need additional land, the city can start to assemble that land so the project can go forward more quickly when funding becomes available. So the city can look at this now and see beautiful plans, but cannot actually acquire any of the land until the EA is in place. So that's one of the reasons why they're doing it now.
Okay.
Also, we have to understand that there will be quite a few constructions, being built in between now and then. Yes.
Yeah, some of those will be to the advantage of the project because, as you know, when a landowner goes through a development process, they have to donate land for the widening of the road if it has been approved by the council, and that's what this will do. So it's not all negative from that point of view. Okay, next part of your...
So now we're at here.
So if the... Okay.
30 years, what, from now?
So if the municipalities had the money and the approvals were in place, how long would it take to get to its construction and then do the construction?
We actually had a meeting this morning where I enlisted the help of our senior road managers and senior construction people to go over in detail and give me an estimate of the duration of construction of the road in segments, so that I will have that information available in a short while. And then, for example, there may be segments of this road in the city of Rockland, or Clarence Rockland, and the city of Ottawa that go at the same time. They may not be all sequential, or they may be. So I will be able to answer that question better after. I will feel much more comfortable if I have these people with many years' experience look at this and provide me with that guidance.
Well, I would like to say that some people have made comments and have about the survey, about the pathway along Voisine Road, and so I think those people have had a productive meeting. So I don't want to say it's black and white. And I think you understand, Mr. Guibard, as a former mayor, that part of this can't be answered by the staff tonight, that part of it you should talk to the mayor and the council. I'm not going to comment on that. Marc?
OK. C'est pas compliqué, là. OK? La 17, tant aussi longtemps qu'on n'a pas d'argent ou on ne la transfère pas, elle se bâtira pas. C'est pas une question. La Ville d'Ottawa, ils vous l'ont dit. Ils ont dit ils ne peuvent pas se l'afforder comme qu'on ne peut pas se l'afforder. OK? On peut discuter de ça. S'il n'y a pas de l'argent qui vient de quelque part, elle ne se bâtira pas.
La prochaine question est là-bas. Ensuite, monsieur ici, qui est mon conseiller. Puis madame, est-ce que vous aviez une question?
Oui, merci beaucoup. Question to you, sir. You were talking earlier about the studies you've conducted regarding the development of the city of Ottawa, how it goes east and north or west and south. That's all fine and dandy. Have you talked to anybody of the city of Clarence Rockland about the development of the city? Because last time I checked, the city of Clarence Rockland was one of the fastest growing communities in Ontario. That'd be my first question. I have one more about the three-lane.
Okay, sure. I'll take the modeling question, but not the three-lane question. The modeling, yes, the model is actually a regional model, so it's not just the city of Ottawa. It's all of Gatineau and all of the surrounding counties. So the growth plans for all of those regions are all amalgamated together, and that's put into the transportation model. So yes, the growth in Clarence Rockland and further out and further south and all around is all accounted for in that modeling exercise.
But is there any communication between you and the city of Clarence Rockland regarding that growing?
Oh, do I talk about to them specifically? Yes, we have that information in terms of our planning work, but what goes into the model is done through what's called the Trans Committee. So there is a group that are professionals from each of the jurisdictions that meet regularly to discuss the model, how it's developing, what it's being used for, how to improve it. All of the people who do the land use planning all talk to each other. All the people who do the transportation planning talk to each other. It all happens on a very regular basis. So the model is fully aware of what the future plans are.
I go west, I drive 120. going east, go through speed limit on the C road. Did you mention this already?
Okay, what are the speed limits expected on the new road?
Well, we don't set speed limits in the EA study. We have made an assumption that the speed limit will be 80 kilometers an hour in the rural area and 60 kilometers an hour in an urban area.
The back? Okay, so you're saying what about having a third lane and it's reserved for buses during the peak periods? Have you looked at that?
And things like that are done further in the city of Ottawa where there are reserved bus lanes, but there's not enough bus service this far out to warrant having a full lane just for the buses. So if everybody were to leave their car at home and take the bus in and there was a bus every 5 or 7 minutes, then yes, that would be good. But right now, the volume of people choosing to take transit from out here is not high enough to warrant having a separate lane.
We'll ask, how did we come to the choice of the 174-17 widening as opposed to either going on Willhaven, or for that matter, there was the consideration at the previous meeting going all the way down to Innis. Yeah, Innis baseline, yeah.
Yes, certainly you will. Remember, we had 63 different measurements, indicators, factors, and cost was one of them. And we also did a sensitivity analysis. So we changed the weights that we assigned to each of those criteria in order to come up with the most robust answer that we could. And the result of that analysis was that the widening of 174-17 was the preferred alternative. And so it did take into account a broad range of factors, everything from the transportation and the land and the social and the economics and the natural environment and the physical environment, such as where the stability of slopes and the soft clay. So a huge range of factors. And if you have an interest in reading that evaluation report that we did, it is available. You can ask for it, and we'd be happy to give it to you.
Second to my question is, what was the price difference between the Willhaven baseline and the 174? You did not provide us that answer that night.
No, I don't have the answer of the exact number. We had a comparison number, and you are right, the widening of 174-17 is the most expensive alternative of the four. No, not of the four. It is more expensive than the Innis baseline connection. However, Willhaven was not preferred. It was not the cheapest. The Willhaven baseline, it goes through farmland, a lot of people's property. It was not preferred in any way.
Okay, so
I don't have those prices in my head. We had comparison prices, but we did not have the design developed to a level to say this is the quantity of price. We had a comparison cost that we used.
We've still chosen the most expensive one.
That's correct.
okay. I'm now taking questions from people who have not spoken yet, because I have two people who have spoken already and asked to maybe speak again. So I think it was you, yes, and then it's the gentleman in the back. Yes, madame. OK. Elle fait un genre de plaidoyer pour une solution intérimaire en attendant une solution plus permanente, telle que présentée à 4 voies ou à 3 voies. And I don't know if it's a question for you or the county. Or
well, first I'll answer on one part of that question is that the City of Ottawa did do an in-service safety review, which is looking at the road and seeing where the collisions have occurred and what improvements might be done. And so they have started to implement those changes. You've seen changes at Quigley Hill Road, and there are other changes planned for the transition from Trim Easterly and a number of other that don't come to mind right now, but the city has those plans and to make improvements to increase the safety of the road.
Oui, David, d'accord. L'étude environnementale avait été complétée en 89. Les coûts dans ce temps-là, the cost, the estimate cost in 89 when it was completed, I have it here, the cost was 123 million. Today, we're talking of 500 million. How much is it going to be in 2031? We have to do all over again. It means that we are throwing the money away, that 5 million that we got at the present time to do DEA. We shouldn't have gotten involved at all. We got the 4 million, and then the government has given another 1 million. So really, the solution is, as Mr. Guibord just said, we got to get together, work as a team, and go back to Toronto to make sure that Toronto takes us back.
We went to the good roads in February.
Yeah.
We mentioned that if I go to Renfrew and Pembroke, there's 4 lanes.
Yeah.
I go to Carleton Place, there's 4 lanes.
Yeah.
I go to Kempville, there's 4 lanes. We don't have a 4-lane here. And all the municipalities from Prescott, Russell, joined together to tell the minister we need that 4-lane. And I'm sure the city of Ottawa would not mind at all if the province would take back that. And that's the only way we're really going to get that road, is by pushing the Liberal government, when they sell that hydro, to send a few bucks out of it. And my second comment is,
Good luck.
I'd like to say thank you to all you people for doing a great job of giving us the information you gave us tonight.
Thank you for coming. I know if you live here, it feels like one more meeting, and I know expressing your opinion again, but you have to keep doing it, and you heard a number of the arguments that were put forward tonight, is that it's a political issue, and so you have to be involved in that. Je vous remercie d'avoir pris du temps de votre vie occupée, d'être venu participer à cet exercice civique. Bonsoir tout le monde. Safe return.
J'ai à présent, mesdames et messieurs, avec moi Jean-Marc Lalonde, notre ancien député provincial, ancien maire de City of Clarence et de Rockland, plutôt, excusez-moi, et présentement conseiller municipal pour la Cité de Clarence-Rockland. Salut Jean-Marc.
Oui, 42 ans d'expérience en politique, oui.
Il faut mettre ça à bon usage.
C'est bien ça, c'est qu'on prend de l'expérience. Et puis ce soir, la présentation qu'on vient d'avoir, je suis fier d'avoir qu'il y a eu tant de monde que ça. Je ne m'attendais jamais de voir le nombre de personnes qu'on avait ici. Mais actuellement, ce qui m'inquiète beaucoup, c'est qu'on fait l'étude. On est sur le point de compléter l'étude environnementale. En 1989, il y en a une qui a été complétée. On était censé de commencer la construction du 4 voies en 92. Et en 92, bien, le gouvernement provincial du temps a transféré les fonds que nous avons eus ici pour construire la 416. Mais là, aujourd'hui, après ce que j'ai attendu ce soir, on ne peut pas attendre jusqu'en 2031. Et ça veut dire qu'il va falloir refaire une nouvelle étude environnementale, puisque une étude environnementale, elle peut aller jusqu'à 10 ans. Et puis après ça, bien, il faut la recommencer. Puis ce soir, on est en 2015, et puis on dit qu'on ne peut pas regarder la construction avant 2031. Ça veut dire que c'est une autre étude environnementale. Il va y avoir certainement beaucoup de constructions qui vont avoir eu lieu le long de la 1774. Donc, le tout est à recommencer. Donc, l'idéal dans le moment, il faut se rassembler, les résidents de Clarence-Rockland, d'Alfred, Plantagenet, tous ceux qui empruntent la 1774 pour se rendre au travail. Et puis, s'il faut, il va falloir monter à Toronto en autobus. L'idéal, dans le moment, c'est que la province doit reprendre la route.
Je suis d'accord avec toi quand tu as fait le commentaire tantôt, que la province, il faut qu'elle reprenne la route. C'est venu me chercher et là, la question que je me pose, c'est comment est-ce qu'on se rend là? Est-ce qu'on lance un appel aux gens de te contacter?
Oui, je vais définitivement en parler aux députés en premier lieu. Mm-hmm. Et puis, si j'ai la chance, je devrais avoir la chance parce que je devrais me rendre à Toronto d'ici une dizaine de jours. Et puis, je vais en discuter avec les ministres à Toronto, comme quoi qu'on s'organise pour aller les rencontrer à Toronto. On va prendre des autobus, puis on va se rendre à Toronto. Il faut. C'est la seule façon. Sans ça, Rutland est en difficulté. Le développement économique va être affecté de beaucoup. Donc, il faut y voir immédiatement. On ne peut pas attendre 1 an ou 2 ans pour agir.
Parfait. Donc, Jean-Marc, j'attends que tu me reviennes de Toronto pour qu'on lance un appel aux citoyens de la cité de Clarence-Rockland et des environs de se mobiliser afin que l'on puisse aller de l'avant avec cette démarche pour mettre la pression au bon endroit.
Jacques, il faut se rappeler d'une chose. En 1989, les estimés de la construction de 4 voies étaient de 123 millions de dollars. On a eu 40 millions de promis par le fédéral, 40 millions de promis par le provincial. Aujourd'hui, on parle d'au-delà de 500 millions de dollars, que va être le coût en 2031.
2 milliards.
On parle de milliards à ce temps-là, justement. Donc, il faut agir immédiatement avant qu'il soit trop tard. Et puis, je demande à la population de s'organiser ensemble, de travailler en équipe et puis de démontrer au gouvernement, nous sommes sur le point vraiment que nous sommes tannés d'attendre.
D'accord. Merci, Jean-Marc.
Merci. C'est beau.
Merci. Donc, vous venez de l'entendre, mesdames et messieurs, directement de la bouche de M. Jean-Marc Lalonde. Il faut s'organiser. Il est temps de se mobiliser afin de faire avancer ce dossier une fois pour toutes. Donc, nous allons... Vous pouvez en parler dans vos salons, avec vos amis, vos voisins, la famille, et vous impliquer. Je pense qu'il est temps de commencer à s'organiser en petits groupes et d'attendre l'appel de notre chef de file, M. Jean-Marc Lalonde, afin d'aller de l'avant avec cette idée. Sur ce, je vous dis merci d'avoir été là avec nous ce soir. J'espère que, comme moi, vous avez appris autre chose, mais qu'il est temps de passer à l'action. Et sur ce, je vous dis merci et à la prochaine.
En 1867, par un matin d'été, le 1er juillet, notre pays est né.
Les pères s'entendirent sur l'avenir de la nation pour que tous et chacun puissent chanter ton nom.
D'une famille de 4 à 10, nous sommes